Alright, this is where I'm going to reassemble it. Give you an idea of why things were done the way they were. As you can see, the tube now has the 7 batteries in it. There's a plug on the end that allows me to detach it from the plasma tube because I've put, oops, I'm put all the way out of here. I put a matching, basically like a banana jack that's mounted, it's hard mounted to the tube so that I can actually pull out the batteries and disconnect without having to worry about resoldering, etc. So, and the way the electrical connection is, well, if you can see it, is through a modified standoff that's acting as a socket for that banana jack, and attached to the negative side of the tube, which is the casing, is a small little, I guess it's a little connecting tab. I'm not worried about insulating this because the whole chassis, the whole outside of the cane will be negative. I'll show you that why in a few minutes. I'm going to be popping back and forth as I do this. Alright, so I've put the tube down into the base, which has the rubber foot on the end. And as you can see, the little, well, can you see? Yeah, the flange is basically hanging over the tube. And this aluminum has not been anodized yet, so it's still conductive. I'll figure out a different way of doing this in the future. Later on, when I go with rechargeables, I won't have to go through this opening and closing to change batteries anymore. Just a heads up, if anybody's going to make a battery container like this, that's going to be in something that's going to be bouncing around, make it so that there's a spring on both ends, okay? On the bottom and on the top, and make sure that the spring is long enough that no matter how much the batteries bounce up and down, the springs will always make contact. That'll prevent you, from having intermittent connections. All right, so I'm going to now assemble the support rods and the acrylic tube. And when that's done, I'll start this video again. All right, now I've put the support rods on it and mounted the flange on the top, and the acrylic tubes in place also. As you can see with those 3 rods, the acrylic tube is in slight compression, not enough to cause it to fracture, but those rods are solid aluminum, 1/4 inch, and they're tapped on both ends, and they're seated within a flange inside these pieces, and mounted with, excuse me, you can see all my laundry on the floor. Let's see now. I don't know if you can see there's Allen screws down there, basically. Stainless steel Allen screws, 632s. By doing this and having this in compression like it is, this becomes incredibly stable. This is very, very, very solid. I mean, I can put all my weight on this thing and it doesn't give an inch. Well, it doesn't deform, let's say. So at this point, it's ready to have the plasma tube installed. Now, if you take a look, you see the plasma tube has this wire running around the side of it. Well, that's part of the exciting, that's basically the negative side of the high voltage, because you need to have this little wire if you want to have the tube light up nice and evenly from one end to the other end. And it conveniently provides me with, since it's the negative side of the switcher, the high voltage supply, it also allows me to connect the negative of the battery to the same wire. Ergo, the oh, I got that all wrong. I take that back. Okay. All right. That wire that you see there is used to provide. Yeah, I'm correct. It's the negative side. Oh, I'm such a silly twit. All right, I had a brain fart. That connection, which is to the end of the tube, goes to the negative supply of the high voltage unit, which is correct, connects to, obviously, the negative of the battery. And the negative of the battery stack happens to be that terminal post, not the positive. So I've put the batteries back in upside down, so I've got to go switch that. But yeah, so what happens is the case itself, because it's conductive, this is unanodized, this is aluminum, going to this end here, becomes the positive, okay? And it has no effect on anybody because it basically is just it's just providing the plus voltage from the batteries to the head of this walking stick. So when I get the battery switched around, I'll continue this video. All right, I have the batteries replaced and put in the right way. You'll see that on this tube, there is a wire going from one end to the other, and there's no internal connection to the tube. That's basically to help excite the tube. That's the negative side of the power supply. The positive side does go to an electrode at that end. And this helps to stimulate the gas inside. It's, I think, argon that's in there. The reason why it has a blue tinge instead of like a white, I think it's because there's a particular phosphor coating. Very light, it's almost translucent, but it is there, and I think that's what gives it the blue tint. That's nothing more than a half-inch copper plug that I soldered the banana post to. I needed something that the tube could fit in, that was stable, because if I'm going to plug this in and out, just having a connection at that end, with a bit of copper tape wrapped around the tube as a connection, is a little too fragile. So I epoxied it into that, and in order to keep that wire taut, otherwise it looks it isn't very nice. You'll see there's a spring there. Damn this camera. I'll get some better equipment later, but right now this is my first attempt at generating a video. And that keeps this wire nice and taut. The reason I want it nice and straight is so that it's not very visible. And once you install it inside, the whole idea is to line up that wire with one of these posts. The reason for the 3-sided instead of 4-sided is it gives you the best view of the tube. Okay, if I had 4 rods supporting this thing, it wouldn't look as nice because you wouldn't see as much of the plasma. This way here, the rod doesn't interfere much. Well, 1 of 3 instead of 1 of 4. So I'm seeing about 120 degrees worth of view, which is the entire tube. Anything less might block some of it off. And it works well that way. And the 3 rods makes this unit very, very stable. All right, I'm going to insert that and then screw on the power supply head, and we'll take it from there. Back in a bit. I've got the top, the base of the top bolted down, ready to install the tube. Down there, you can see 3 switches. I tried to make it so that it wasn't obvious, how to turn the unit on. And that was done by using these 3. Oh, come on, camera. Do your thing. Well, they're metallic domed micro switches. And maybe later on I can show you a better picture of it, but that's all I can do with this right now. So it's pretty rude and crude. They're basically just epoxied in there. Again, I added a little bit of Mylar as a diffuser so nobody see the mess of a wiring job in there. I haven't tidied it up. And I've also not built the voltage circuit, the DC switcher yet, because I've got to do a little more thinking about it. I'm not happy with the fact that I'd have to reduce the batteries and thereby reduce the capacity significantly. So until I figure out a rechargeable or a lithium ion replacement, I'm going to just leave it as it is. And I'm going to put it together so you can see how it actually looks. Because it's, you probably want to see that. Okay, next.